Well, it goes back to when I was working on Star Trek. I was working with Gene Roddenberry, and we had a book was sent to him by Isaac Asimov, the science fiction writer. And I became interested in reading this book, and I discovered that this is a philosophy that I was prone towards, that I had never really knew. I never knew that there was a name for it, that it was called humanism. And at the time, Dr. Asimov was the honorary president of the American Humanist Association, and so I began to look into that. There was a humanist conference being held in, I believe it was in Florida, and so Gene Roddenberry wanted to go and invited me to come along, so I went. Got very interested in the whole philosophy and in the movement, and I didn't do very much with it. I joined the AHA, but I was living in Los Angeles. I had a very full and busy life, lots of friends, and not much extra time on my hands. But Gene died in 1991, so for 3 years I did some writing, and I was involved with the local writing scene or whatever. And then we had a very bad earthquake in 1994, the Northridge earthquake, and I decided I don't like earthquakes. And so I looked around to see where else I could be, because you can write from anywhere. And Arizona looked good. There are no fault lines in this area. I looked at Tucson also, and then I decided to move to Scottsdale. And I did not know anybody except my realtor and one Star Trek fan. So those were my only contacts. When I got here, I thought, I've got to find some like-minded people. And I joined the Humanist. I went to HSGP meetings. They were being held at the Safari restaurant, which no longer exists. And I found that I was very interested in this, and I liked the people. And there were about 25 people that would go to a meeting. We would have coffee and some rolls or something, and I think there might have been a speaker, maybe not, but it was being with like-minded people. At one point that I was doing this was back in 1994, they needed somebody to take notes or something on a board meeting, and I said, I can do that. And so next thing, they made me secretary. Okay, fine. So, and then I just became more interested and got more involved, and then I think I think I became vice president. I'm not sure. Somehow I became president. We had a couple of presidents in between, and one of them died, and then so I suddenly found myself being the president, and then I was president for like 10 years. Did a lot to help grow the group. Worked with a friend of mine he was vice president at the time. His name is J.B. Wright, or Jan Wright, and we had the offer of a donation for a building. Every week we were schlepping tons and tons of materials back and forth to the restaurants where we were meeting. We would load up the minivan with books, with everything that was pertained to putting on a meeting, projectors, whatever, and they were in the van. Then we'd come home, take them out of the van. We did this so much that Hal Saferstein said, I think you guys should have a building. Humanism has been a really important part of my life. I made all of my friends because of humanism, and getting to HSGP and discovering that I'm on the same page. It's about human rights. It's about being a mensch, I like to say. It's a philosophy that without any supernatural beings, that you can treat each other with respect, and I go along with that. Separation of church and state is a very important part of that, and that means a lot to me. It's something that I find probably the number one cause that is championed by most of the humanist organizations that I belong to. On an international level, and I was on the board of the International Humanist International for a while, for like 6 years. It means protecting people around the world who are being discriminated and in some cases physically punished to the point of death threats, and even people have been killed in the name of, because they don't believe in the religion of the state. And this is something that we need to work towards. It's a non-religious philosophy that means do good, because not because you're gonna get a reward or punishment, but because it's the right thing to do. That's very important to me.